Is Bakoli still the boogeyman? Over the last couple years, the hype for Martin Bakole kept building with knockouts over Carlos Takam, Jared Anderson, and sparring stories coming out that he is one of the most dangerous heavyweights in the world. It seemed like he was running through opponents, putting on a devastating knockout and performance against Jared Anderson, but that led into a short notice fight against Joseph Parker where he got stopped in 2 rounds. Now, coming off a tough fight on the Canelo card against Efe Ajagba where he, again, does not get his hand raised. So, honestly, this is how Martin Bakole lost his aura.
But before we get into that, we're Punch Talk and are bringing you guys daily combat sports videos. So if you enjoy the content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to help support the channel. Martin Bakole was on a great streak and went on a 10-fight win streak, almost all finishes after losing to Michael Hunter in his first defeat all the way back in 2018, and he was really looking to be a very dangerous force at the heavyweight division, and what cemented that was his electric win over Jared Anderson. Many assumed that Jared was going to be the next great American heavyweight, as he looked very light-footed for a heavyweight and was climbing up the ranks, but when he got matched up against Bakole did a number on him, dominating him in that fight with a combination of uppercuts, hooks, and just all around a dominating game. Many were even seeing shades of George Foreman in his style, and you could see he was flat-footed, but he was so powerful and such a huge force in there. It didn't even seem to matter. But as Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker was set to fight, Daniel Dubois would pull out a day before his fight with Parker due to illness, and Bakole stepped in with a day's notice to come all the way to Saudi Arabia to fight against Parker. Parker's been on a great run himself, and many were looking to see if Bakole was really the boogeyman, and if he could achieve this feat of beating Parker on 1 day's notice, that would be incredible. But in that fight, we just saw him get knocked out very easily in the second round, and many let it slide because he did come in with 1 day's notice, not even having a training camp, while Parker has been on a great run and had the full camp being prepared for Daniel Dubois, who's also a big hitter. So although he definitely did lose momentum against Parker and kind of messed up some opportunities he would have for the future if he took the safe route and just had a full camp, many were looking to see if that loss was not legitimate due to the short notice and if he would put on a statement against Efe Ajagba.
Yeah, this was the fight that was already supposed to happen. It looks like that was already getting eyed. Potentially even Efe Ajagba versus Bakole was going to be on that Times Square card, but instead, obviously, Bakole takes that short notice fight against Joseph Parker, and honestly, he should not have taken that fight. He was out of shape. They said he hadn't sparred in like 6 months, hadn't taken a punch since the Jared Anderson fight, which makes no sense for the potential boogeyman of the division, a professional athlete who is supposed to be one of the future guys to be at the top of the heavyweight division to carry the torch, and Bakole is still a young guy. He's only 31 years old, but for the heavyweight division, that's honestly not that bad. A lot of heavyweights thrive towards the later ends of their careers and even when they're older, and he's massive for the heavyweight division, but sometimes a bit too massive to his own detriment. Even in this fight, coming in at 300 pounds, when he looked his best was probably a bit lighter, 280. He was 285 against Jared Anderson. Even then, he could be a little bit lighter than that, and I don't think it's all necessarily completely down to the weight, as Efe Ajagba was in that fight, and all it really took was some lateral movement, nice jabs from Ajagba, and just pure boxing that Bakole kind of struggled with. He did have his moments, don't get me wrong. It was a close fight, and obviously it was scored a draw, so Bakole didn't lose that fight on paper, but to have that close of a fight against Ajagba just means that Bakole hasn't necessarily lived up to the hype and the potential and the aura that he once had, destroying Jared Anderson easily, brutally. He was seen as the boogeyman of the heavyweight division, the guy that a lot of the top guys have reportedly struggled with in sparring, and the guy that's going to take over the heavyweight division inevitably very soon. But after that Joseph Parker fight, he probably shouldn't have even come back this quick, only less than 3 months after that loss, and he did get hit with a clean temple shot. Obviously, his trainer Billy Nelson stepped in and stopped the fight pretty early. It seemed like Bakole was okay to continue, but still, it was probably going to be a devastating knockout anyway, and the excuses from Bakole's team and Billy Nelson have kind of just been unfortunate to see. Billy Nelson's been saying that even after this Ajagba fight, Bakole just wasn't disciplined, and for him having a full camp going into this fight, there's really no excuses anymore. If he's going to take these opportunities, he should be fully ready, prepared, disciplined, and we've seen this a lot in the heavyweight division. Some guys that just can't get their mind right. For example, like when Andy Ruiz was going into that rematch against Anthony Joshua after winning the heavyweight titles, he ballooned ballooned up even heavier than he already was, and he already wasn't a lean guy by any means. So some heavyweights definitely struggle with the discipline, especially when you consider these guys don't have to cut weight at all, like pretty much every other division. Like every other division in boxing, everyone has to be disciplined, regimented, eating right, dieting right, fully locked in to make a certain weight. But heavyweights can just go in there however they want, whatever weight they want, and sometimes that could be to a detriment, like we're probably seeing with Bakoli, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I was personally a very big fan of Bakoli and was really excited to see what he could possibly achieve and do next. Had very high hopes for him in this division, but after that massive mistake of taking that Parker fight on such short notice and then not really taking this fight serious, it seemed as he was massive in the weigh-ins. And it's even possible he was very satisfied from the money he made from Saudi coming in very short notice to take the fight. It was said that he made a lot of money for that fight by stepping up, so maybe that could have attributed to him not being disciplined anymore. And it was just really an unfortunate performance. He just didn't really seem to be engaging all too much, only some moments of that. Very flat-footed. Of course, we know he's been flat-footed, but he wasn't even chasing, trying to cut off the ring too much, and Ajagba's movement was just too much for him. It didn't seem like Bakoli even wanted it that badly, which is not a good sign considering he's never touched a belt in his career. So it's just a big shame from the potential that many believed he had. Of course, it's not over yet. Fighters still come back, even from 2-fight losing streaks practically. Even though he drew, many thought Ajagba won though. And maybe if he finally starts training properly and comes in at a good weight, one that he's ready, as he was 310 for the Parker fight, but fine short notice, and then 300 against Ajagba. So it's really time for Bakoli to get disciplined and try to rack up some good wins again to get people on board again. Because it's not even like he put his all out there and tried his best to get the win. It just seemed like he's been lazy, and once again he doesn't want it that bad, which seems to be the key issue. And especially what we saw in that Ajagba fight, it's just not good looks compared to some of the elite guys in this division. There are some huge power punchers way heavier than Joseph Parker that could give him some huge issues, even if you imagine him facing Alexander Usyk, which he probably won't get that fight ever or anytime soon, especially with this 2-fight skid. And if Ajagba could outmove and outbox Bakoli, just imagine what the likes of Usyk would do. And it's just unfortunate because we see he has a lot of very good tools in his game. That uppercut is so sneaky and quick, and he can even jab well, making his flat-footedness not as much of an issue in prior fights, because even Jared Anderson is a light-footed guy moving well. So I think it's really just a matter of Bakoli being locked in training camp, taking the fight serious, and really caring when it comes fight night to put on a good performance and try to get the guy out of there. When he did have Ajagba near him and was opening up, it didn't even look full intent. It looked like he was just tagging him, which was a little odd. I get he doesn't want to get caught again, probably after getting knocked out badly. But Bakoli's keys to victories are usually to knock the guy out, and if he's not going to do that, then what hope does he have, really?
Yeah, it just falls short of the expectations of everyone saying that he is the boogeyman of the division who has knocked out Usyk in sparring, who has knocked out Dubois in sparring, has destroyed AJ in sparring. And word on the street is that Bakoli was the world champion in sparring, but obviously at the top level, he has potential. He just has to realize it. There are guys that move very well in this division. Even if Joseph Parker didn't land that temple shot, he's a great boxer, a great mover, and it seems like he's all wrong for Bakoli anyways at this point, at least in hindsight. Going into that fight, if Bakoli had a full camp, I probably would have picked him to win that fight, but now knowing what I do now, seeing that Jagba fight, obviously you can't take too much from that Joseph Parker fight because he literally got into Saudi Arabia the day of that fight going down, but it still just wasn't a great look, especially for his stock. Even though he took on the massive challenge, he kind of saved that card when Daniel Dubois pulled out. That was a huge moment, but the fight itself didn't go his way whatsoever and kind of hurt this image of being the boogeyman of the division, being the up-and-coming heavyweight that's going to take over this division and everyone's sleeping on. He had the aura of this guy that's massive, a tank, a beast, but when you even look at that resume now a little bit in hindsight, he doesn't have the greatest wins in the world. Carlos Takam very past it. He was well into his 40s in that fight. Then Jared Anderson, who has been very on and off. Now, granted, no one has destroyed Jared Anderson quite like that, that, but he had a shaky performance against Charles Martin. Even coming back after that Bakoli fight had a weird performance. So I still think Bakoli has potential. He has a lot of great tools and assets that could make him a threat in this division. It's just whether he's gonna be disciplined. It's just whether he can realize the talents he has, the tools he has. He's not a purebred boxer, but he's just a powerhouse, and he's got to bully guys. He's got to go out there and not get frustrated like he seemed in this Ajagba fight. He was edging him on, trying to make him fight fire with fire, which obviously Ajagba's not going to do, and he could just outbox you on the outside. You can't just be a one-trick pony in this game, especially in the heavyweight division where anyone can really turn your lights out at any moment. I still think there are some very fun, exciting fights for Bakoli in the heavyweight division, but his last couple fights definitely didn't go his way. His team seems to be pretty delusional about it as well, which definitely doesn't help. But overall, this is definitely not the end of Martin Bakole. We're going to see a lot more of him, but it's just whether he can make it to the top of the division like he was once hyped up to be not too long ago. But let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Will Martin Bakole still be able to rise up the heavyweight ranks? And if you guys enjoyed and want to see more boxing, check out the video on screen, 10 boxing fights we need in 2025.